So, what are some of the fatherly roles that need to be redefined? We've talked about, this doesn't work, that doesn't work. So, what are some of the things that we need to redefine? One of them is the stoic provider stereotype. The stereotype of you are the father, your job is to provide. Yes, your job is to provide. But you also have to be emotionally available and accessible. You can't you can't slave away your life all day, all year round at work, trying to put bread on the table, and then not be there to instill values that will keep that bread and legacy in the family. Otherwise, your life is a waste, so to speak. You're just going to be working for other people, or even work for yourself, make that money, provide for your family. But then eventually, will your family even understand the value of what you have done? Because some of the reasons why fathers and sons or fathers and daughters disagree, from what I've learned, is because the father wasn't there. Sometimes it's because the father didn't do his job to provide, which then leads to the son or the daughter being self-sufficient on their own and providing for themselves. But some of the reasons why daughters and sons have not been able to forgive their fathers today is because their fathers were not there emotionally for them when they needed them. Take, for example, Gladiator. If you've seen the movie Gladiator, there's a place where Caesar goes on his knees rather. He goes on his knees and tells his son that your fault as a son is my failure as a father. And the reason why he could say that, or the reason why that happened, was because Caesar was a career emperor. His life's work, 44 years or 24 years of his life, was dedicated to war. 24 years of his career as an emperor was dedicated to expanding his territory. And in those 24 years, he had only known 4 years of peace. And in those 24 years, he has not been able to spend time to instill proper core values that makes a man in his son, which then eventually led to his son killing him, because he felt like his son wasn't grounded enough to be handed the things that he had worked for. So look at the depth of that misunderstanding. He did his job as a provider and a protector. He expanded his empire. He went all out. But he did not spend enough time with his child to instill the values that his child needed to carry on his legacy, which then led to his child killing him. So what's the essence of what he worked for all his life? It's the same thing with fathers. If you're going out there to provide, yes, go ahead, do your thing, put food on the table. You're a man, keep going, you're doing well. But if you're not there for that child, what you're doing is a waste at the end of the day. It boils down to thinking in the long run. Do you want to create a legacy, or you just want to feed your kids and move on with your life and maybe die at the end and then everybody goes their way? What are you gunning for? Another stereotype is the absentee father stereotype. All these things are connected. So the society believes that, okay, because as a father, because you have to be focused on your career, you shouldn't be present in your child's life. It's wrong. You shouldn't be present for your family. It's wrong. My father he was emotionally present, he was emotionally accessible, and he had a wonderful career. My father, I can't begin to read his success as an artist, an actor, an academician, but he was someone who was well known all over the world for his job, and he was a wonderful father to us, his kids, as far as I can tell. He had his flaws. Everybody has their flaws. But I sometimes look at my father and like, this man does not have mistakes. He has mistakes, yes. But because of the way he has been able to provide, protect, and also be present in our lives, I'm looking at it like, okay, is there a place that this man went wrong? Trust me, he's not perfect, but I can't seem to put a finger on his errors because he was there for me as a father up until his death. And because of that connection that I had with him, it becomes very, very hard for me to say, oh, some of those things I want to pass on to my children. It becomes very, very hard for me to say, Omo, I don't get time for my pikin o. Anyhow he wants to do it, he should go and do it by himself. There are certain things I learned from my father that no one has been able to teach me today. And I can't wait to pass them on to my kids because I know no one is going to teach them. It's my job, it's my responsibility. So, yes, you have to provide. Yes, you have to have a successful career. But you also have to raise the next generation of kings. You also have to raise, it's one of your responsibilities to put your children in the on the proper path. I think there's a Bible verse that addresses that. I'm not much of a Bible thumping person, and I'm not a Christian. But there's a part in the Bible that it says, raise your child in the way of the Lord, and when he is grown, he shall give you peace. It's not just about protecting and providing, it's also about being available and accessible for that child, which then leads to unemotional protector stereotype. Like, you find out that some kids will say, ah, man, I hate my dad. I'm like, how? Why? Because he doesn't want me to do this. He is always talking about this. He's always trying to stop me from doing this. It's understandable that you, as a father, you see the dangers of the world, you see the dangers of society, and you're trying to protect your kid. That's your job. But you also have to make that child understand that, oh, okay, the reason why I'm doing this is because this is what I see, or this is how I see this. Don't just say, ah, you can't do this. No, it's unacceptable. No. And then you can't even make the child realize that, okay, the reason why this is happening, or the reason why I've said this, is because this and this and this and this and this. So you begin to look like a tyrant. You are doing your job, protecting your family. But to your kids, you're a tyrant because you are emotionally unavailable. Your job is just, what you've been doing rather is just, don't do this, this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do, this is how you should do this. You're not telling them why or how. You're not being emotionally available for them. So they begin to see you as someone who is unaccessible and unreachable. And in your presence, they might respect you. They might say, oh, okay, yeah, that is here. And then everybody's going to cower and then behave themselves. But once you're gone, you're gone. You're not there. So eventually, when it comes to certain things, they'll be able to approach you. And when it comes to the really important things, they'll shy away because they know that naturally you are emotionally unavailable. So they are not even going to think about you in the first place. That's why some kids keep bad company, so to speak, because they are looking for people who they can access emotionally, and then they find them in the wrong places. So, no judgment, but as a father, it's your job to protect and provide, yes, but it's also your job. It is also priority that you are there emotionally for your family, not just your kids, your wife, your kids, and any other family member who might need you emotionally. Now, let's talk about the inflexible gender role stereotype. We've talked about it before. Society kind of expects that, oh, there are certain rules that are for the women and there are certain rules that are for the men. And we need to kind of break this idea away from people's head, because there are certain things that men do better than women, and there are certain things that women do better than men. Take, for example, while I was growing up, there are times where my mom would have to travel for jobs, and my dad would happily cook for us. He cook for the family, take care of the house. Like, while I was growing up, I still vividly remember my dad bathing my little sister as an infant. Typically, the society will tell you that's the woman's role, that's the woman's job. But my dad happily did these things. My dad he was, apologies that I'm referencing him a lot, but that's the only reference I have that I can go to in this context. I've seen my dad cook and clean. Not because my mom can't do it, and not because he's been asked to do it, but because it's necessary, it has to get done. And I've seen my mom do things that are my dad's responsibility. After my dad died, my mom was the breadwinner of the family up until all the kids started going to school and leaving the house. So these ideas need to be taken away from our heads and the society at large, because it affects the way we do certain things. It affects the way we see certain roles. It affects the way we interpret certain decisions that people take. Because take for example, if a woman now has to be the sole provider of the family, and then she becomes maybe more aggressive, more outspoken, more energetic, some people are going to see her as quote unquote BICTH or BITCH. And it's not like she wants to be like that. She just has to survive. These are things that are naturally masculine, but she has to adapt to that. What's it called? To that she has to adapt in that way so that she can do what she needs to do to provide. But then because the society has become so fixated on certain gender roles, they begin to see it as no, this person, no, this woman, it shouldn't be like that. So some of the other stereotypes include the expectation of super dad. Your dad is a super dad. He's flawless. He can't make mistakes. He's strong. He can't be sick. He can't, so to speak, he's a god. And another one is what's it called? Lack of emotional bonding. So if he's not there, if he's not accessible emotionally, he can't he can't form a bond with his family. Now, we need to start questioning these traditional norms. We need to embrace vulnerability. We need to prioritize emotional connection and intelligence amongst men. It is very, very, very vital. It's not just a matter of speaking up about how you feel. It's also about understanding how your actions and inactions affect other people around you, the lives and destinies that are connected to you. It is very important. So another thing is to share caregiving roles. I had a happy childhood. It wasn't exactly smooth and everything rosy. There were times where, you know, it was a bit chaotic. But I had a happy childhood. And one of the examples of sharing caregiving roles was you did something wrong and daddy was beating you and mommy just walks in. She's going to start beating you too without even asking what you've done. They can go and have that conference later and say, what did he do? Why did he deserve such beating? But you see, the moment mommy walks in on daddy scolding you, mommy is not going to shield you. My mother never shielded us from our father disciplining us, and my father never did the same. They had that, it was like an unspoken rule. Just be praying. Once daddy is disciplining you, pray that mommy doesn't walk in or mommy is not there because she's going to add her own. And the same thing when mommy is doing the same, daddy is going to add his own. So we always had that fear. Please don't tell daddy. Please don't tell mommy. So we need to start sharing caregiving roles. And it's not just about beating your kids or disciplining them. It's also about attending to them in terms of their education, in terms of their emotion, in terms of how they socialize in the world. It shouldn't be the mother alone, taking care of the kids' sociological aspect of life. The father too should be present. It should be flexible. You both are responsible for it as the father and the mother. It shouldn't just be, oh, you take this part, focus on it, and I'll take this part, I'll focus on it. Yeah, division of labor is good, but there has to be checks and balances that make each person know that, okay, yeah, this is my role, that's your role, but I also need to, have an input on this because eventually you're raising the next person who's going to be responsible for lives in the society. So if you mess that up as a job, let's not go into that. We also need to model healthy relationships. We need to support other fathers. Fathers need to support fathers. There needs to be a community. We can never go wrong by creating a community of men, valuable men, who have emotional intelligence and support each other. That's my primary mission on this podcast. It's going to get there. But we need to have a community of men that support men emotionally, physically, sociologically, psychologically, financially, and every lead that is available. Men need to support each other. Men shouldn't suffer in silence. Men shouldn't do it all alone. Men should have each other. Men should have brothers. Men should have fathers. Men should not be alone and do it all alone and carry all the burden alone and suffer in silence. No. So another thing is to celebrate individuality. Recognize the fact that no two people are the same. Therefore, no two styles of fatherhood will be the same. And you can't copy somebody's style and use it on your own kids or your family and then expect that it to give you the same result. No. There are different there are different situations that are involved in that person's style that you're copying. So you need to understand individuality. You need to understand the situation you're dealing with, the resources you have, the situation around you, the people involved, their emotional intelligence, a lot of factors, and then use all that information to make what's it called, to make a plan, or to make your judgment. We need to share these lessons with each other. That's one of the values or essence of having a community of men. Pass the knowledge down, or pass it forward to the next person. What do you know that can help you as a man? Oh, okay, I think this can help, this can help, this can help. I recently saw a movie, Old Dads. It's about it was produced by Bill Paul, and it's about these three guys that are fathers, and they are struggling with raising their kids into this world, because the way they were raised was different from the way the society expects you to raise kids into this world. What they eventually did was find their own way around it and create their own pattern, but they didn't do that without helping each other. One of them didn't want to be a father, but eventually, when he saw someone else's attitude towards being a father, he decided that, oh, I'm going to have kids with this woman. That's one of the essence of having a community of men, to educate and communicate. So, the benefit of all I've been saying all day, the benefit of some of these things, boils down to certain things. And one of them is having a thriving family and a thriving society at large. Kids who have rough childhood and emotionally unavailable parents and fathers tend to struggle as adults in the society. But people who have good upbringing, emotionally available parents, they tend to do better on a larger scale in the society than people who had to suffer through their childhood and go at it all alone. So all of these things is not just for yourself. It's also for the future and the sustainability of the future and the children and the society that is to come. So I hope I've been able to do some justice to some of the stereotypes of fatherhood on today's episode. And please leave a comment below. Let me know some of the things that you experienced as a child or as fathers that you feel like it doesn't sit well with you or shouldn't be the way it is. And we'll talk about it on the next episode. Please give this video a thumbs up, like it so the algorithm picks it up, and don't forget to subscribe if you've not subscribed. It's very, very, very important. I cannot stress my appreciation for you for doing this again. And I just want to say thank you. That's all I can say. There's nothing, I don't know any other thing to say than thank you. If there was any other thing I could do, I'll do it. But thank you very much for doing this with me. I really do appreciate your time and commitment. And I remain my brother's keeper till the day I die. My name is Onola Fatoba. You're not alone. Always remember, you are not alone.